This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Airbotics. The new generation of disinfection and odor removal is here with the advanced UVC technology of Airbotics, featuring a hydroxyl generator and an air scrubber in one. Designed by industry veterans and built right here in the US, Airbotics machines not only create hydroxyl radicals to eliminate odors and VOCs, but also use HEPA filtration to capture particulates. And they're already being used by restorers and training schools across the country for jobs of all shapes and sizes. Step into the future of restoration today and learn more about the Airbotics trial program and how to buy at airbotics.com. Hey restorers, thanks for checking out a fresh episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today I am excited to be joined by Dan Tarantin. He is the CEO of American Restoration. He is based in Texas, but this is a company that is growing in the kind of the M&A space and working on adding more companies to their portfolio. There are some companies within their portfolio that I recognize, probably some of you might recognize as well. So I am excited to have Dan here and talk a little bit about American Restoration, where they're heading, kind of what he's seeing in the M&A space and overall trends in the restoration industry as well. He's not at all new to the industry. He's worked with other companies that you will also recognize within the industry. So Dan, thank you very much for being here. I'm going to toss it over to you to have you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in the industry for people who don't know you.
Sure. Yeah, good, Michelle. Thanks for having me. This is different for American Restoration. We've been under the radar for a while, and getting together and pulling together as one company. And so now we're kind of ready to share our story. But I've been in the industry. Gosh, I did the cleaning industry certainly since 2011. I ran a company called HRI, which had ChemDry and Enhanced brands under it, and did that backed by private equity until we acquired Delta Restoration Services in 2017. Yep. So I got into restoration specifically there. As you know, right, carpet cleaners always kind of were pretty close to restoration. In fact, that's kind of the origin of the industry, I believe. And then in 2019, Belfor acquired us and made us part of the Belfor franchise group. Invited me to be the chief operating officer there. So, at that point we had 6 brands, acquired 4 more during one time I was there. And so, we had 10 brands and 3,000 locations and company owned stores too. So it was quite a grouping of brands, and really, really great company, really great team of people. It was really hard to see another opportunity that was going to be better than that, but this one came along, and while it was an established company, our brands are an average of 34 years old. On the one hand, on the other hand, it was a brand new company because really just kind of started to get pulled together in 2019 by Soundcore, which is a private equity firm. So they did 8 acquisitions in 2 years basically, but had focused on making the right ones, making sure that the cultures fit, making sure that there's a broad offering of services, and making sure that they're leaders in their markets, right? And they've done a great job with that, but didn't spend a lot of time on kind of doing anything else, right, with the business and integrating it and all that stuff. So fast forward to me joining in September of 22. That's really all we've been focused on, is integrating. And what are the best parts about the integration piece here amongst restoration brands, right? What's too much integration? What's enough to bring benefit to everybody, right? And that's what we've been trying to figure out. So that's kind of bring you up to speed a little bit where we are, and I'm happy to go past that. I've been in the hotel industry. I've been in the tax preparation business. I've been in the auto insurance business, and started out my career after getting a degree in hotel management at JP Morgan. So I'm all confused, but. Perhaps the most important part is I'm from New Jersey and I am a big Springsteen fan. So maybe we should just go there and leave it there.
Had I known that, I could have played some intro music for this podcast. That could have been kind of fun. Add some Springsteen in here.
Nice. That would be good.
Yeah, it would have been good.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the background of American Restoration. You said the companies are average of 34 years old, and I know that there were more acquisitions in recent years, but what's a little bit more of the background of the company and kind of the roots of it?
Yeah, so private equity is big in this space now,
Yeah,
and they had Soundcore specifically had a thesis that this was an interesting space to be in
it
for
is.
all the
Yep,
reasons I think that we all know,
yep.
and are excited about, right? So they started off buying one brand, UDK, Utah Disaster Cleanup, in
Hmm.
out of Draper. Which is fantastic brand, fantastic company, just great team of people, and then just kind of went from there, right? And looking for brands that were full service restoration. So
Hmm.
we're full service across all the brands we have. Different pockets of geography. So, we go from Georgia to Texas to Illinois, over to Utah, up to Washington, Oregon, and even Alaska. So,
Alaska.
and
Okay.
a couple in there in between too. So yeah, so it's a broad covering, as a base for us.
I think Alaska has some of the most interesting jobs and case studies that you can find, especially if you're needing to like get planes to get stuff really far
Yeah.
north into where losses are or whatever. I think that those are always interesting. So
Yeah.
what are some of the goals from here? I mean, now that you're coming forward now saying, hey, we're here and we've been a player, but kind of behind the scenes. So now what?
Yeah, we're trying to put the American Restoration name out there a little bit more. But our model for sure is really to keep the brand names on the businesses that we
Hmm.
acquire.
Okay.
We just really believe in that model. We think it's a really strong one, for a number of reasons. One is, those companies had been building that brand in that market for an average of 34 years in our case, and just has really deep ties to the community, deep ties
Yeah.
to referral sources, deep ties to subcontractors, and the feeling of closeness for the employees, right? To
Hmm.
working for that brand. So we don't believe we should or need to do that, and change the brand name. So we haven't done that. It's not our model. But behind the scenes, right? So we can put some common systems across the companies, take some administrative burden off of their
Yeah.
hands that they had to, they're used to dealing with, right?
Hmm.
We've really spent a lot of time on data and being able to collect data and bring it back to them,
Yeah.
analyzed so that they can learn their business more and that they can see what's going on and make decisions from that. So I'd say, most proud of the team in this past year of being able to. I think we're definitely I'll say leader, I think, in the industry on data usage and collection and analysis. Just have learned so much about the business. It's been great.
What are some of the things that you think make the companies that are under this umbrella kind of unique? There's so many groups that are buying up restoration companies. And you mentioned full service, that you're only interested in companies that are full service, and it sounds like community oriented. But what are some of the other elements that kind of bring this core group of businesses together, and might be qualities that you'd look for other companies to bring in?
Yeah, no, culture is a big part of it, right?
Yep.
And one of the things to note also is that the founders or family of founders, or in two cases, longtime general managers are still the people running the business.
Okay.
And so I think we're trying to keep the entrepreneurialism alive,
Yeah.
that created those businesses, right? And I think any employer would love for all their employees to think like owners. And
Yeah.
certainly, these folks do. And so we're, carefully managing and showing them the benefits of these things that are different from what they were doing, but they're, definitely seeing the value in what we can bring to them. There's, capital we bring to the table. So, they want to
Mhm.
expand and buy a number of trucks, right? We can do that. Or they take on a very, very large job and, money goes out
Yeah.
the door for a little while. We're able to do that, right, with them too. And so, those are some of the things that, we're focusing on and have a lot more tools from the systems we've rolled out that we just haven't taken advantage of, right? So,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
and then just the last one, I think, as I'm thinking through your questions here, we signed our first national account. Right. And so, which is a large one. And we're not national. I get that. But certainly, in the areas where we are, we'll be doing business with them. And, they also understand the importance and why we keep our brands. Right. So that has been an issue for us. And, 2 of our brands have been doing business with them, but the other 6 will be new, and it's incremental to them. So
yeah, that's a big deal.
Hopefully the first of many.
Yes. Do any of your locations do any cat work? Have you seen kind of some partnership amongst large losses or cat response or anything like that?
We strategically do not chase cat work. And haven't, well, certainly since I've been here, but that is not in the cards for us. Certainly if something happens, right? We're in Texas, a hurricane hits Houston, and we have customers. Absolutely, of course, we're there, and we'll play in that. But otherwise, we're not going away from our core customer base. It just doesn't make sense. It interrupts the business. And Florida, where a lot of stuff happens, is a crazy insurance market these days. So, that helps to say no also. But we share equipment amongst the brands. We've definitely shared expertise amongst the brands on different kinds of projects that they've seen that another one has done before. And so, that the closeness of that group and the best practice sharing of the group of general managers and senior folks in those brands has been also probably another really cool thing to see, right?
Yes. I'm curious, how have you kind of looked through, there's so much technology in the restoration industry right now. I think all restoration companies are looking at the different options out there and trying to figure out what's best, what should we implement, whatever. Do you have kind of streamlined software that you're using across all the brands, or is it kind of like this company's used to using Dash, so they're going to mostly use that, this one might use Restoration Manager, whatever? Are you kind of helping with processing the technology stuff? As we're ramping up so fast now in the technology space, where does that kind of fall into the mix?
Yeah, no, we're trying to handle that for the offices, right?
Yeah.
And so, we've in the last year and a half gone on to one accounting system. We have gone on to one operating system, which we chose Dash. I think it's a great tool. We are one payroll system, right? We have one place where we store our pictures, right, for various different things. So we've kind of taken that away from the offices. They can focus on something different, and that allows the data capture, right? That allows for them to see, hey, what's going on? I mean, I'll give them. They have access to something going on in Texas if they're in Washington, right? And they can see, one of the great things we found out, just as interesting, is 95% of our jobs were within 30 miles of an office.
Interesting.
So
that is a good reason for not chasing cat work, because a lot of people forget that if you chase cat work, then you're not serving your customers at home and they're going to your competition. So
that's right. So, I mean, look, there's a good way of being able to identify where, growth opportunities are, right? So, but look, that's just us. I mean, you'd have to, but that's what you get with understanding who your customers are and where they are. And, all that.
What's kind of your process of weeding through all the options that are out there, such as project management software, for example? There are a lot of options out there in our industry. So what's kind of been your process for finding the best fit for your companies?
Yeah. We go through the diligence process, right? And we speak to different folks in the industry. I mean, I think, generally speaking, who the top players are. There's certainly very good ones in each category. I guess, I've seen a lot of them before because of the brands that I worked with in my past, in the 20 brands that I've worked with in the last 11 years. And so, that's been helpful. I think, to bring that to the table and what the options are and things. So, and it's gonna be good for a small business, or for, where we have an office that has 20 folks in it, right? And we have an office that has 100 folks in it. So, you know, it's got to be able to scale and meet the needs of both of those.
What are some of the biggest kind of changes and shifts you've seen in the industry in the time that you've been in it? I mean, obviously COVID was kind of a big shifting point, but what are some of the biggest changes you've seen maybe from when you entered the industry to today?
Yeah. Certainly, you know, the use of data, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big thing that I've seen change in the last, couple of years. You know, I think the insurance market is changing, right? So, we're seeing in, as I said before, Florida, where, deductibles are going up because people, that's a way of saving some money in these inflationary times, or, they're self-insuring. Which is really scary. But we're seeing that in one or two other states. Hopefully it doesn't continue, but that's something that's changed, or is changing because of what's been going on in the economy the last couple of years.
What would you say, and maybe the insurance piece is the answer to this one, what would you say are some of the biggest pain points you're seeing, especially maybe amongst your group of companies? What are some of similar challenges that they're facing no matter where they're located in the US?
Yeah, I would say we're fortunate to see the answer would have been 2 years ago, finding employees,
People.
right? Finding
Yeah.
people, of all types. I mean, all kinds of categories of folks, right? So that's not as much these days, right? As is, I'd say, the insurance part of it, right? And then the other piece of it that's really important, that's not necessarily painful, but gosh, is so important, is training new employees and things. You always want to go to someone with experience for different things, but man, you can absolutely get someone who has the ability to learn and desire to learn and things like that, and train them. I mean,
Yes.
in any spot really. And so that's pain point, but pain point that we can solve, right?
Yeah.
And we need to get better at it. We need to do more of it.
Yes. I'd love to talk a little bit about you as a leader. You've been a leader in various companies now in slightly different positions. And I'm kind of curious, like, I have several questions here, but what are some of your favorite leadership resources as a leader, so you keep growing as a leader and can keep imparting wisdom on the people that are under you? What are some of your favorite resources? It might be a book or a podcast or website, anything.
Yeah. I'm a visual guy, so it's generally people, all right. So folks that I know that I consider great leaders. Right? There are many great leaders at Belfour. There are many great leaders that I've met in private equity. That some of the firms I've worked with. I have a good friend who's the leader of a couple of large food chains, and sort of learn from him. So that's from that perspective, right? But I really, be honest with you, I learned from the teams.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so, I kind of help or try and react a little bit to how they want to hear things, right? And how they want to deal with things and how they want to interact, with me. Obviously, there's a message to get across. And we're making sure we get stuff done, and we're setting a strategy, but a lot of it is a reaction to them, and certainly live a servant leadership role here, and build a good team and get out of their way and help them get their job done is generally the practice I like to follow.
Do your leaders under you at American Restoration across these other companies, do you meet often, or maybe once a year or whatever, and those leaders kind of collaborate together as well?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the things that has changed since I've been here. Is we get together the top 3 to 4 folks from each brand. We've gotten together once a year now, and we have a monthly call, also for sharing best practices. Quite frankly. And this year, we're going to take that to the next level, and we're going to have a gathering of all the business development folks amongst all the brands. because I think we see some trends there that
Mhm.
are very helpful for people to focus on. And so we're going to have a meeting of those folks together. And my guess is probably a little bit later in the summer, we'll do one for estimators.
Okay. Estimating is changing a lot, and bringing in remote estimators and using different platforms. That is definitely an area that's seeing a big
Yeah.
shift. Are you guys seeing that?
No. Yes, no, we are. And,
Yeah.
it's a matter of staying up on it, right?
Mhm.
You have another system out there now besides the Actimate that's, gaining some ground, and adjusters turn over a lot at insurance companies. And so that's why, our folks need to be well versed so that they can help train the adjusters that
Yes.
are in the business.
Okay, before we wrap it up, I have a few more questions, but this one's a little bit sticky, but I'm curious because you've been with Belfour and now you're with American Restoration and involvement in PE and big companies. And the industry's been going through this consolidation for the last few years. And obviously Americans coming forward now as being a little more vocal on, hey, we've been buying up companies, you just maybe haven't heard of us yet, or investing in companies. So where do you see the industry M&A trend going now over the next maybe year, 24 months? Where do you think that we're headed?
I think you'll see continued consolidation
Mhm.
amongst a few companies. Um, uh, there's all the benefits that we talked about, but
Yeah.
there's also the benefits for the folks that own these businesses that are selling. I mean, they have an option of staying on and running a business and not worrying about certain things that they've worried about all the time. And take some chips off the table, or they want to figure out an exit plan because they're getting of retirement age, right?
Mhm.
And they want to move on. And so that's the kind of things that consolidators can give to folks who are running independent businesses. And
Yes.
so there are thousands, right, of restoration companies out there and things. I think you're going to see more consolidation on the full service uh, companies
Yeah.
versus the mitigation, folks. Probably be one thing that I think we'd see. There's no clear list of who the top 10 restoration companies are by
Mhm.
by revenue, but I'm confident we're in the top 10 largest restoration businesses in the U.S., not franchised, right? So wholly owned and run business, we're definitely in that space. I could argue which number we are, but goal would be to move up 2 or 3 spots in the next 3-4 years.
I get that. There's a couple companies that shall remain nameless, and I feel like whenever they have an M&A announcement, they're a little like,
Yeah.
we're here. So kind
Yeah.
of, yes, we're that's something that we're working on behind the scenes with know-how, is working on generating a list that does actually show top 10 based on revenue and stuff like that. So
Sure.
in the works, we'll see if we can get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything that we missed? Anything else you want to share?
No, I just, I cannot say enough about local relationships, and local connections are just really so important. And our involvement with communities and with charitable organizations and things is really at the core of a lot of our brands, right?
Yeah.
We're fortunate to be an industry that it's not hard to understand or come up with what our mission is. Right. And that's what I love about the industry. I mean, it's right there. It's hitting you in the face. Like, what it is that we do and how we help people. We like using that. And I think it's great when I see other restoration companies do that as well. It's really cool to see.
Yes, I totally agree. Well,
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Hopefully
Yeah.
I'll see you in person at a show sometime this year. There's always shows. We're heading into trade show season. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for chatting with me. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.